Hello everybody, it's your boy Sobless, back with another one. And in today's video, we'll be talking about the Kalos tour. The Kalos tour that happened last weekend. Personally, I feel like this event, once again, failed to meet these standards, at least for the global event, that a tour event should meet in my eyes. And I feel like this is because it's missing core aspects that made tour events. Back when they debuted in 2021, and back when they got their sequel in 2022. So without a further ado, I would like to cover 5 things that this Kalos tour event needed in order to be a true tour event in my eyes. So without a further ado, let's get into things. Starting off with one that should be pretty obvious, roaming legendary Pokemon. Starting off with 2022, we got our first 3 roaming legendary Pokemon available during tour events, and this idea really hit. Having 3 legendary Pokemon in the wild or less, or even more sometimes, that people can hunt actively was a complete hit. Especially since these Pokemon were Suicune, Entei, and Raikou during 2022, it gave people a huge throwback to the Gold and Silver games, and having Entei, Suicune, and Raikou be the first ever roaming legendaries in those games. And pretty much after that, I viewed roaming legendaries as a pretty much staple towards these events. The very next year, we would get Latios and Latias in the wild. The year after that, we would then get the Lake Trio with Uxie, Mesprit, and Azulf. And after that, we got nothing. They just randomly cut off this feature during Gen 5, and if anything, Gen 5 made it way easier for them to use this feature. They could have either had one day with all 3 Swords of Justice in the wild, and then another day with all 3 of the Genies in the wild, or they could have just had one day with all 3 of the Genies in their incarnate form in the wild, and then one day with the Genies in their other form in the wild. But they just decided to completely scrap the feature itself, which I feel like completely removed the whole tour aspect of hunting down these special legendary Pokemon in the wild. I partially feel like that's the reason why I consider the Sinnoh Tour an at least decent event. Not bad, but decent, because there were wild legendaries to hunt. Number 2 is going to be a better paid experience. For this event, you could buy a $10 ticket, which would give you Shiny Boost, and it would give you a Latios encounter on day 1 and a Latios encounter on day 2. And then that's pretty much it. You would also get a few special researches, but yet again, most tickets come with this, and this isn't really that cool because other Go Tour events had these researches available for practically free. Not to mention, this $10 ticket also came with the Masterwork research. So technically that explains why there's such little in this ticket. Unfortunately, with this tour event, my, tip can't just be add a paid ticket because they actually had a paid ticket. It was just bad. But I personally think they could have put some more stuff in here. Do the thing where you give us 9 free raid passes on day 1 and day 2, totaling 18 free raids in total, instead of forcing me to buy a bunch of raid passes and only use like 3 free raid passes throughout the whole entire event. Next thing is shiny rates. For somebody who bought a ticket, I would have to say at points, the shiny rates just felt oddly low. It's not like GoFest where if I grind hard enough, I can end off a day with like 30 shinies if I just straight up don't take a break. This event, I didn't take a break on day 2 and somehow ended up with the same amount of shinies I had during day 1, in which that day I actually did take a break for like a few minutes. With all this being said, I don't necessarily want to say that I believe the shiny odds were completely rigged. I just believe that there were some areas where the shiny odds should have been boosted, and there's also some areas where the shiny odds just weren't boosted enough. So you may be going like, too much raids? That makes no sense. Wouldn't you want more raids in an event like this? And to that I have to say there was over 25 Pokemon that you could raid during this event. I am so sorry, but obviously a huge amount of them are going to get glossed over. A majority of these Pokemon are not Mega Dragonite, not Mega Victory Bell, and not Mega Malamar. Not to mention they are also not Honedge, or Xerneas or Yveltal, the actual Pokemon that I was able to consistently find in raids throughout this event. Meaning that a majority of the times, you were waiting for an hour for these specific Mega Pokemon to spawn. And then they did spawn. And then, well, you just didn't have enough time to raid them properly, like I said in the last section. With this leads to my point of too much Pokemon being in raids. Hell, I would even argue that Pokemon Go Fest 2024 had this same exact problem on a way lesser scale. That event was extremely overwhelming on day 1, but they fixed it by just having the Necrozmas on day 2. So if you wanted, you could either have day 1 be your major raid day, or you could have day 2 be your major raid day. I used day 1 to actually complete my Ultra Beast deck, and then I focused harder on raids the very next day. After raids, there's spawns. And to be real with you, spawns have the opposite problem from raids. Instead of having too much, it has too little. And you may be asking, how do I know this? Easy, because I know the first thing most of you said when I mentioned that fact that this event needed wild roaming Pokemon. You probably immediately thought, what wild roaming Pokemon? And to that I have to say, yes, the Kalos region has no wild roaming Pokemon, but it does have Mega Latios and Latios, which can be roaming Pokemon. So what they could have done was put those two in the wild and made it so that whenever you catch one, it gives you up from 100 to 75 energy from highest to lowest. So to wrap things up, in conclusion, this event wasn't bad. It just wasn't good enough. I feel like this event was the first time in a while where I have hope for the future of tour events. Even though I know that I'm probably not going to participate in next year's tour event, more on that on Friday, I will admit that this one was a fun experience, one that I'll never forget, but it just wasn't for the right reasons. It was fun. So without further ado, let's call this video wraps. It's going to be your boy Soblis signing out. Peace, and have a great day, guys.